So here's prompt 9 for today, last prompt for the chapters, and I want to use this free fall theme to end it, okay? And I believe a lot of you have gone on the drop tower before at Great America, right? So you kind of feel, or at least understand what it's like to have the feeling of free falling. Okay, so you know how it is. If you want a free fall, they need to get you to a certain height before they drop you, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to go anywhere. So that height right there, that maximum height that designed to safely drop you, and of course you will experience maybe 2, 3, 4 seconds of airlessness in a sense,
What do you mean?
or weightlessness. I'm sorry, airlessness, weightlessness, right? When you get dropped, it's like a very short moment in time where you feel like, oh man, I'm like floating or something, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but this is what's happening here. That whole experience is described by this equation right here. H equals to negative 16 t squared plus s. So let's go ahead and read this to see what h represents, what t represents, and what s represents. Okay, so here it is. The height h in feet of car above the exit ramp of an amusement park free fall ride can be modeled by h equal to negative 16 t squared plus s, where t is the time in seconds after the car drops, and s is the starting height of the car in feet. So just go ahead and recap that a little bit here. S represents the starting height. So it means how high did you go before you start your free fall. Okay, so that's what S represents. T represents how long you spent in the air, right? That's sort of time, the second that you actually experience weightlessness. And of course, H represents your location at any moment in time. So if I have to take like a picture of you while you're being dropped, that's what H represents. Let's say 1 second into your drop, I take a picture. It shows you your location at that point. And then another second, I take another picture. You see what I'm saying? So that's what H represents. Your location after you're being dropped from your maximum height. And remember, maximum height represented by your S in this case. So if you read the first questions here, it says, how high above the car's exit ramp should the ride's designer start to drop in order for the riders to experience free fall for at least 3 seconds? So I'm the designer of this ride, and I want you to experience at least 3 seconds of free fall. So from that questions right there, what's already given? What's given from that very first question? The time, 3 seconds, right? So what can you replace that 3 with? Where can you plug that 3 in? The t. So you need to know where to plug in. Okay, so we know that we can certainly replace that t right here with 3, right? And of course, because it's t squared, we say 3 squared, right? So when I write it, you have, let me just go ahead and write it here, negative 16 t squared, so that means it's going to be negative 16 3 squared. So I replace the t with the 3. What else can I replace? I still have the s, and I still have the h. What is it that it's asking you to find?
The speed.
Really? What is it that's asking you to find?
The height.
What height?
The height.
Read it carefully. This is the reason why I really want you to read the problem very carefully.
The height of the free fall.
What is it that it's asking you to find?
The starting.
The starting. What did I say about which variable represents the starting height?
S.
So that means it's asking you to find which variable? S. Okay, so I know I have to find S, right? But that means I need to know what the height here is. Think about this. If you're doing a free fall, starting from your initial height, as you experience 3 seconds of weightlessness, you get to where? To the ground level. At ground level, you can safely call that what? At what? What is it? 0. Yeah, you reach the ground, 0, your ride ends, right? So that means after 3 seconds, I take a picture of you, where should you be? On the ground. On the ground mean what height level? 0. So in this case, what should you say here for h? 0. There it is. And I have my equations. See it? So can you do some simplifications here? What is negative 16 times 3 squared? Anyone? What is 3 squared? You have to do power first anyway. 9. What's 9 times negative 16? Negative. Anyone? Negative? Yes?
Negative 144.
Yes, negative 144 plus s equals to 0. How do I solve for s now? Yes. So plus 144 over. That means s is?
144 feet.
Exactly. So that means for the rider to experience 3 seconds of free fall, the initial height of that car has to be 144 feet above ground. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, there it is. That's your first question. And now, look at the second question. It's phrased a bit differently, okay? So I want you to go ahead and look carefully.
Please.
Yeah, go ahead. So this kind of problem, just read carefully and plug them do half. And if you look at this second question right here, it asks this. Approximately how long would a rider be in free fall? So what is it asking to find this time? How long is what variable? How long? Approximately how long would a rider be in free fall? What am I asking you to find?
The time.
The time. So that means I'm asking you to find t, right? If their starting height is 225 feet, what did I just give you there?
Height.
What is that? H or S?
S.
The starting height. See it? You gotta understand the difference between your height at any moment in time versus your starting height, right? In this case, your car is being dropped from 225 feet above ground. So if I have to write it again, here's my H, here's negative 16 t squared plus S. Which variable can I replace? What can I replace? The S with what? 225. So 225 will go right here. And notice that since we have to find a t, it will remain there. But what about h? What do I know about h?
0.
0. Yeah, because I know that it has to start from that height and it has to go all the way down to the ground, right? So down to 0. And there we have it. We have this equation. And how do we solve for t this time? Anyone remember what to do? Yes.
Minus 225 over.
Huh?
You minus 225 over and then divide it. Replace.
Let's not do that at this point. What do you recognize 225 to be?
Oh.
This is 2 terms, by the way. 2 terms. Yeah. Is that a perfect square?
Yeah.
Is that a perfect square?
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 terms means what?
50.
2 terms. Dots. But is this written correctly for dots?
No.
So how do we write it correctly? We can't take out anything though. What can we do? What can we do? Or can we just switch it? Remember how we used to switch the terms? Can we just do like this? 225 minus 16t squared? Is that the same thing?
Yes.
Is it 225 still positive and negative 16t squared still negative? There it is, right? I can still switch it. And when I'm done switching, at least, I can recognize this to be not a PST, but a dots, right? For 2 terms, don't forget. You gotta understand the difference between a dots and a PST. Dots stands for what? Difference of 2 squares. Okay, PST for perfect square trinomial. Okay, here, how do I put 225 as a square? 15, right. So 15 square, and this is, how do I write 16t squared as a 14. So if I have that, what can I do next? How do I expand it? 15 minus 4t and plus 4t. See that? And now how many cases do I have here?
2.
2 cases, okay. So I have 2 cases. Let's solve for the first case. What is my first case going to be? Help me write this. What's the first case? 15 minus 4t equals what? 0. That's one case. Or, second case?
15 plus 4.
15 plus 4t equal to 0. Alright, so how do I solve for t?
Subtract
Subtract the 15. I got negative 4t equals to negative 15 divided by negative 4 both sides. Let's estimate it since we want the time to be in seconds, right? So what is negative 15 divided by negative 4 is going to get you approximately?
3.
You can round it if you want. Roughly what? About 4 seconds, right? If you divide, you get like 3.8 something, fine. Let's round it off to about 4 seconds. So fine, approximately about 4 seconds, right? You solve this right here, it's the same thing. Minus 15 both sides, 4t equals to negative 15. But when you divide by 4, you get back a negative approximately 4 seconds. Which one here is actually an acceptable answer? Positive, right. So depending on the context of the problem, since we're dealing with time here being dropped, right? Are you telling me, oh yeah, you're going to drop negative 4 seconds? Or 4 seconds? You see it? So even though both of them will work, but because of we're dealing with the time here, we just have to pick the positive to represent time. 4 seconds. Okay? Any question on that problem? Does it make sense? Okay. Now with that in mind, let's start with this next problem right here. So this is what it says. If a number is subtracted from its square, okay, the result is 90. Find a number. Now what am I talking about? A number is subtracted from its square, the result is 90. How do you take that and write it into the equation? A number is subtracted from its square. Any idea? Let's extract a couple things here. It says to you to find a number. Do we have anything to represent a number yet?
No.
If you have nothing to represent it, what do? What is that called? What's that process called? Defining a variable. You don't have anything to represent your value. You got to have a variable to represent it, right? So this is called the defining process. So let's call n. N what? N is what?
0.
N is what? What do you define n to be? N is the number you want to find, right? N is the number. Fine. Now let's go back and revisit the first sentence right here. It says, if a number is subtracted from its square, a number subtracted from its square. How do you write subtracted from its square?
N minus square.
Okay, so we know the number is subtracted from, right? Its square. How do you write its square?
N square.
How do you write 5 square? Don't you write 5 square? This is a number square. So how do you write a number square? Yeah, exactly. So n squared, right? And it says that the number is subtracted from its square. You see what I'm saying? A number is subtracted from its square. The result is what? 90. And there you have it. Your equation. What do I do from here? Yeah, because we want to achieve the zero product property, C2P, right? So we subtract the 90 both sides, and this is what you see. Right? Remember this step from yesterday? Now that we have this, what do we start asking?
Is everything in order?
Is it in order? It is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Next step.
Grades come from
Is there a GCF? No. Okay. What's the next thing then? It's 3 terms, right? 3 terms. So focus on that branch only.
TST.
Okay. Good. PST is it PST?
No.
No. Fine. And we go on over to Xbox, right? So what's the X here?
90 squared.
90. Negative. Don't forget the sign, guys. And the bottom. Negative 1. Anything here? What times what would give negative 90 add up to negative 1? 10 and 9. 10, 9. Which one has to be a negative?
10.
Yes. There it is. See it? So is it the same thing like yesterday? Pretty much. And of course, you can certainly write it out. Here's n squared minus 10n plus 9n minus 90 equals 0. I have 4 terms. What do I do with the 4 terms? I can box it, right? So here's my box. I have n squared minus 10n plus 9n minus 90. Can I take anything else? n, okay. What about the bottom? 9. The top? N,
Negative 10.
negative 10. So I can write it out as n minus 10, n plus 9, and of course everything's equals to 0. I hope that for those of you who pay close attention to the fact that this is, because this is a 1, I can use the shortcut approach. See it? Negative 10 and 9? Negative 10 and 9. We talked about this before, right? So for those of you like, maybe I can skip the box for now because it's 1, I can certainly use it. But if you're not sure and you want to just, test it out and make sure it's correct, do the box. You still get the same answer, okay? Just to be certain. So if I solve for your roots here, what do you get for n? 10. So 10 is one of my answers. What about the other one?
Negative 9.
Negative 9. Okay. There you have it. And you plug it in, both of them will work out for you. So either the number is 10 or it could be a negative 9. This I don't care about the negative or positive because it did not specify that I want all positive or negative, right? So both are acceptable. Are there any questions on this? So the important part here is, do you know how to take what's given and write it into an equation? This is the reason why a lot of people are struggling with the DMQ, because they cannot take the problem and write it into an equation. Once you have your equation, the rest is exactly the same. Okay? Check this one out. The sum of the squares of two consecutive negative odd integers is 130. Find the integers. Now let's focus on one thing here. Odd, consecutive odd integers. Can you give me an example of 3 consecutive odd integers?
3, 5, 7.
3, 5, 7. What do you notice about those numbers? They're what?
They're odd.
I know they're odd, but
They're
what?
in order, skip them.
I know, okay, so they're in order, whatever. But how can you get from one to the next? Skip by 1, really?
2.
By 2. You see it? It's not skipping by 1. It's 1, 3, 5, 7. Every number is being skipped by 2. And that is what you use to define your consecutive odd. Or even. If you give me like even, 2, 4, 6, 8, they're all skipping by 2 again. Okay, so how do I define consecutive odds? In this case, I know I need how many consecutive odd integers? 2. I need 2. So let's define the first one. How do you define the first consecutive odd? What? What do you start with always? Some variable, right? So what variable do you want to use? X, fine. So let's X here represent my first consecutive negative odd. Okay, if X is my first consecutive negative odd integers, how do I define my second one? What did we do? X plus 2. We realize that every number is being skipped by 2. So that means the second one is simply skipping by 2. X plus 2. So I don't care what you give me for X. Let's say you give me negative 11. Then what is the next one's going to be? Is it negative 9? Skip by 2, right? Okay, so that works out. Okay. Now you go back to the very first line here. It says this. The sum of the squares of 2 consecutive. So the square of 2 consecutive, and you add them, right? Because I want the sum. So how do I write that? How do you write the squares of 2 consecutive? Okay, so first of all, the first consecutive, I square it. What is the second one?
Plus 2.
Plus x plus 2 squared. The sum of the square of 2 consecutive numbers, right? Equals to what?
130.
1/3. And there you have it. Your equation again. Okay? This one is a bit more involved because if you notice here, see this x plus 2 square? Don't you need to expand that? Do you guys remember how to expand x plus 2 square?
X plus 2.
Good. That's how you expand it. X squared plus x plus 2, x plus 2 equals to 130 because everything here is square, meaning you have to repeat it and do it twice, right? X plus 2 times x plus 2. Did we do this before? You guys remember how to do this?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, x squared, 2 second
If you guys don't remember the shortcut, what do you do here? Box it. 2 by 2, isn't it? And here's the thing that still kind of disappoints me in this, at this current point in time. Here's x plus 2. Here's x plus 2. What's x plus times? What's x times x? See that? Exactly what I'm talking about. X times x is not x. X times x is x squared. Give yourself an example. If you take 2 times 2, are you telling me that 2 times 2 is 2? Of course not, right? 2 times 2 is 4. So x times x is not x. X times x is x squared. 2x, 2x, 4. Combine like terms, right? Won't that give you x squared plus 4x plus 4? So this is the expansion part of the two products here. So when I write it, this is what you see. The x squared part is still here, of course. And then I put that in, which is x squared plus 4x plus 4. The whole thing equals to 130. Any question at this point? I'm just simplifying as much as I can. But now you realize that, hey, wait a minute, can I do something here? Combine like terms. So what is x squared plus x squared? 2x squared plus 4x. And I want to make this 0, so how do I make this 0? Subtract it, okay? So subtract 130 over. If I subtract 130 over and plus 4, what is that going to get me? Negative 126, okay. And guess what? I end up with the same kind of situation again. I have 3 terms. What's the first thing you want to ask now? It is in order. Okay, good. Check that. Ah, GCF. Very good. Is there one?
Yes.
Yes. What can I take out?
2.
A 2. So if I take out a 2, what do I have left inside?
X squared plus 2x minus 63
Equals to? 0. And yesterday, I showed you how to get rid of this GCF, right? How do we get rid of this? Divide it, right. Divide both sides by it. So this is what's happening. If you divide it, the 2 will be gone, and this side 0 divided by 2 is still going to be a 0. Won't change. But you end up with something smaller, and it's easier to manage. PST? Huh? Yes, it is. PST? Or Xbox? Okay, let's do Xbox. PST not working because 63 is not a perfect square. So if you do Xbox on it, what do you put on top? Okay, negative 63 and 2. What times 1 would give you negative 63 and add up to 2? Very good. 9 and negative 7. See it? 9 times negative 7 is negative 63. 9 plus 7 is positive 2. And once again, if you want to do a box on this, you're more than welcome to. But then I realize that this is a 1, then I can just do a shortcut on it, right? So I can just go ahead and expand it to this. X plus 9, x minus 7 equal to 0. Agree? Okay. Let's solve for the 2 cases here. So the first case, which is x plus 9 equal to 0, what is x afterwards? Negative 9. And of course, this one right here will give me what? 7. Now, I said, find me the consecutive negative odd, right? So which answer here is actually acceptable? Very good. So I only use the negative 9 and not the 7 because even though 7 is an odd number, it's not negative. So as I plug it back into here, here's my negative 9. If my first number is negative 9, what is my second number going to be? Negative 7. Very good. See it? Because negative 9 plus 2, negative 7. Do you have any question on that? We're good? Okay, cool. All right. Here's another practice one. The length of a rectangle is 8 centimeters less than twice its width. So, I mean, if I were going to do something like this, I'd draw myself a picture of a rectangle. Do I know the width?
No.
No, so let's define that. This is called defining too. W is the width, right? You certainly define it this way if you want to. Draw yourself a rectangle and start defining. So W is the width. Is the length given?
Yes. 8 centimeters. Less than.
Oh, see, you got to read the whole entire sentence, right? how do you write the length is 8 centimeters less than twice its width? How do you write that? So look, the length, which is L, right, is, which is equal, how do you write 8 centimeters less than twice its width? 2W minus 8. Because the word less than means you gotta flip. Remember that? So now at least I know that for the length, it's represented like this. 8 centimeters less than twice its width. So I have the width, I have the length. How do I find the area?
Area equals
Yeah. So area is length times width. Do we know the area already?
yes.
Well, what is it?
2 with wait.
Is the area given? 120. So I notice I plug in area 120, right? What's the length?
2W.
2W minus 8, right? What about the width? Just the width, right? Okay. What do I do here?
Subtract 120.
Okay, I can certainly subtract 120, both sides. That means I'm going to get 0 here, and I get 2W minus 8 times W minus 120. Can I do any simplification here?
No.
What do we do here?
Oh no, good.
Oh, combine.
Combine. This is multiplying. What do we do?
Distribute.
Distribute. Come on, guys. So you got, what, 2W squared minus 8W minus 120? Look at that. Now that looks very familiar, right? 3 terms.
PST.
PST.
Is it PST?
Yes.
Yeah? PST?
No.
Is that a PST?
No.
Is that perfect square?
No.
Is that a perfect square?
No.
But you forgot to take out your GCF. Is there a GCF? What's the GCF?
2.
2. So if you take out 2, what do you have left? W squared,
Negative minus
4W
60.
minus 60, right? And notice the reason I can just go ahead and ignore the 2 because, you know, when you divide both sides by 2, you get rid of it. So, but I'm just going to show you here. Fine, you can just kind of take out the 2 by dividing. Let's Xbox this thing because we know it's not a PST. What do you put on top? Negative 60. Negative 4. What times what would give you negative 60 added to negative 4? Good. Negative 10 and 6. Not negative 6 and 10, right? Because you have that, you get a positive 4 instead. And once again, I can use a shortcut in this one. I can just write W minus 10, W plus 6 equals 0. Don't forget, if you're not certain, do a box on it. Okay, so what is my first answer here if I solve for W? 10. And the second answer?
Negative 6.
Which one is acceptable as a width?
No, 10.
10. So we choose the 10 only and not the negative 6 because we cannot have negative 6 width, right? If my width is 10, what is my length?
Wait, 10.
Negative 26.
Really? Did you plug it in and test it?
Wait.
If my width is 10, what is my length? 12.
Oh.
Why? 10 times 2? 20. Minus 8? 12. I just plug in. Remember, I defined the length to be 8 centimeters less than twice the width. So I have, once I have the width, I plug it back in and solve for the length. Right? So that means my length for this rectangle is 12, and my width is 10, which makes sense. 12 times 10? 120. That's it.
Nice.
And that's what it is.
Nice.